What a lot of women don't understand is that men are tired too. Men are overworked too, and that just because they wear their scars a little differently doesn't mean they don't have them.
Men, especially right now, are needing a lot more appreciation and support from women and from men. Because since the rise of the feminist movement, we have seen a lot of empowering women or independent, powerful women kind of pushing down and suppressing masculinity. And we are seeing this on a larger scale. This is hurting all of us. And if we choose to support men in the rise of healthy masculinity, we are going to see everything start to work in our favor as women and as men. So we need to stop with just empowering women and bashing on men and hating on men for being men, and start empowering everyone so that we can all thrive together.
So as of more recently, I've been really trying to get into men's mental health. Specifically men's mental health, because I think it's such a complex thing. And this happened a couple weeks ago when I was posting about it on my Instagram story. I basically was just saying, like, women are never going to understand what it's like to feel like our feelings shouldn't be voiced, and that we have this like societal expectation to be this manly, have it all together, have it all figured out type of person, you know? Because I think that it's extremely important for men to be men. And I've said this the entire time on TikTok, fuck that feminist shit. And I know there's gonna be a lot of ladies that are mad at me for saying that, because the vile things that I read after I made one post for men in support of them, encouraging them, and saying that we as women are never going to fully understand, no matter how hard we try, what it would be like to be in that position as a man, and to have these expectations of you all the time. Yes, ladies, we do have our own set of things, don't get me wrong, but I can sit up here for 5 years and make nothing but supportive posts for women, and I make one post on my Instagram story for men, and the things that I read were absolutely disgusting. So then I started doing more research. I really wanted to look into just like men's mental health quotes, so I googled it. And honestly, there was not very encouraging stuff on there. If anything, I saw more posts about toxic masculinity when I was searching for the exact opposite of that. And then it brings up a whole list of women empowerment things. So let's say a man wants to go feel better, so he just wants to look up some positive quotes about it. It's nearly impossible to find a few good ones. So then I looked up, why does my husband yell at me? And there is a DV hotline immediately, top of the page. You look up, why does my wife yell at me? And it starts going on and on about like how hormones and whatever, and like maybe do something, like we get traumatized, whatever. It's like feeding into it. Two completely different scenarios. Men's DV is not recognized as heavily as women by any means. Those are just two examples of some of the things that I found completely on my own. So I just wanted to make this post for men. If you struggle with your mental health, if you feel a societal expectation that you have to be a specific way, it is okay to not have to be tough all the time. It is okay to feel your feelings. It's what makes you human. And it's also okay to talk about those things. There are people that want to be there to support you, and there are women that are not all bad and all think this way. Because yes, when I made these posts, there was a lot of hate from women, and that's despicable. But there was so much more love and in support of this, and women really supporting me for making these posts that agreed with me. So they are out there, and I am sorry that this was not something that I recognized sooner. I think it is an extremely important topic, and I think more women need to start talking about this and recognizing it, because I was absolutely floored by the things that I saw and some of the guys that I've talked to and their experiences. So men, I think you are tough either way. I can't imagine the pressure that you feel, and I think that you guys hold one of the most important purposes ever. Please continue to protect women. Please continue to be good men. And you know I fucking love you. And this is exactly what it is. It is open-mindedness. I took the time because I wanted to, and because it's my job to talk about mental health, and I wanted to be educated on what it was that I was talking about. I had spent the last 5 years talking about women's mental health because that's the only type that I've experienced, and never actually took the time to look into these little things. The fact that it's as impossible as it is to find a healthy quote for men when they're feeling sad, it is the little things that add up. And everyone wants to come and be like, oh, you're a pick-me girl if you're in support of men at all. But some of these women fail to realize, listen, ladies, I get picked by men I don't want to get fucking picked by. I don't struggle in that department. And that's not me trying to sound like an egotistical asshole, that's just real. But after I went on this deep dive of all of these little things that started adding up to me, I was like, this is fucking heartbreaking. Like, this is so sad. I am sad. And although I don't choose it every time, I know that if I made a call to one of my friends as a woman, someone would listen to me. Someone would want to hear what's going on in my life. And although maybe I don't choose that option every time, because we all have this little part of our ego that feels like we're too tough to ask for help, we all feel that. But we as women, whether you want to face the facts or not, we do not have the societal expectation to handle it ourselves. So yes, we all do need to be more open-minded and understand that we were all born as little innocent babies. We didn't know any better but to be loving. We all got kicked down so many times that we started to learn these defense mechanisms to protect ourselves. So that's just something to think about when you walk throughout the world, is everyone has their own defense mechanisms, everyone has their ways of coping with things, and they are all different. But we all need to try and be a little bit more understanding. And so this is definitely something I want to start talking about more on here, because I didn't understand the gravity and magnitude of the issue of all of these small little things that add up to just be one big fucking mess of a problem. And women, if you have anything to say against me just trying to love everybody, I'm just gonna tell you to fuck right off. I don't need your follow that bad. And everybody, you know I fucking love you.
It's interesting how women always talk about wanting understanding and emotional support. Yet when it comes to men, that same compassion often disappears. Just like women have their struggles, men do too. The difference is that when a man tries to open up, he's usually dismissed, laughed at, or told to man up. And that's exactly why so many men suffer in silence today. Men carry a lot. Pressure provide to stay strong, to never show weakness. Every day, they wake up with expectations sitting heavy on their shoulders, and no one seems to notice. Society keeps telling women to express themselves freely, but when men do the same, it's seen as a sign of weakness. And who created that standard? Women. The same ones who say they want emotionally available men are often the first to mock them for being vulnerable. Imagine what that does to a man mentally. When every time he tries to speak from the heart, he gets shot down or laughed at, eventually he stops talking altogether. He bottles it up, not because he doesn't feel, but because he knows no one's really listening. And yet, women still complain that men are emotionally distant. They never stop to realize they're the reason men stopped opening up in the first place. Men aren't emotionless. They're guarded. They've been taught that showing pain will only be used against them later. They've watched women claim they want honesty, then weaponize it in arguments. They've seen how empathy only flows one way. So they stopped expecting understanding. And now, women wonder why men are colder, quieter, less trusting. It's because they learned that being vulnerable in front of women rarely ends well for them. If women truly want connection, it starts with listening, not judging. Men don't need to be fixed. They need to be heard. They've carried the weight for too long, silently, because the people who say they care the most made them feel like their feelings don't matter. Until women change how they respond to men's pain, they'll keep losing the very men who once tried to share it.
Men have taken the very serious issue of mental health and have personalized it just to them.
Ma'am, I stomached my way through that video so you didn't have to, and oh my god. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why there's a men's mental health month? Because of people like you. Because of posts like this. Because of trends that were going around like the moment of silence for men's health while female creators were playing the most obnoxious music that they could find in the background. Because when men try to open up about how they're feeling, they're told to man up. Because when men are in abusive relationships, and guess what, they can be abused as well, they aren't taken seriously. If a man is abused by his female partner and he tries to call the cops, guess who's going to jail? Not the abuser. Because there is a war going on inside of men's heads that we know nothing about, and nearly 600,000 men a year lose that fight. Talking about how men want to feel oppressed. Meanwhile, you're going, how can I make this about me? Saying that men don't deal with mental health issues nearly as much as women, when mental health is not a competition. Because men are taught from a very young age that having emotions, let alone even showing them, is a sign of weakness. You literally started out your video with talking about how serious mental health is, but apparently it's only serious when it deals with women, right? And since you're so pressed about when Women's Mental Health Month is, it's May. It's May. Google is still free.
She said she can't stand all these women claiming that men have turned mental health into something that's only about them, And honestly, that right there shows the entire problem. Every time men finally start speaking about their pain, women somehow turn it into a competition. It's like they can't stand the idea that men deserve empathy too. But here's the truth. Men struggle deeply, and pretending their pain doesn't matter is exactly why so many are silent today. Women love to preach about mental health awareness, about supporting one another, and about removing the stigma. But when men finally step forward, they're told to stop making it about themselves. That's the hypocrisy no one wants to talk about. When a man says, "I'm not okay," he's ignored. When he finally admits, "I'm fine," that's not the truth, that's survival. It's the lie he tells because he knows no one, especially women, will take his pain seriously. And that's the thing. Women created this environment where men can't express pain without being mocked or labeled weak. They say they want men to be vulnerable, but the moment a man opens up, it becomes ammunition. It's used against him later in arguments or brushed off as attention-seeking. That's why men stop talking. That's why they suffer quietly, drowning behind the words, "I'm fine," because experience has taught them that no one really wants to hear the truth. Men aren't trying to steal attention from women when they talk about mental health. They're fighting for the right to exist emotionally. For generations, society has told them to suppress everything, to stay strong no matter how much they're breaking inside. And now, when they finally find the courage to speak, they're accused of being selfish. That's not equality. That's cruelty disguised as empathy. And women need to take responsibility for how often they've silenced men's pain. So yes, "I'm fine" has become the biggest lie men tell. Not because they want to hide, but because they've learned that telling the truth only gets them judged. Women say they want understanding, but understanding works both ways. Until women stop making men's mental health a competition and start treating it like a reality, more men will keep suffering in silence. Not because they want to, but because they've learned it's safer that way.
There's a girl who made a video making fun of men's mental health awareness, and let me just tell you, she effed around and she found out because the internet, they all came for her. Because the video she made, the caption of it was saying how, like, when they asked you to take a moment of silence for men's mental health, but in her video, she was, like, yelling and screaming, basically saying she doesn't care for it. And people on the internet, they found all of her social medias. They found her family members' social medias. They found her job, her family member's job, her address. They found everything about her. And since then, she's received so much backlash, she has deleted all of her social media. She doesn't post anymore, and I'm sure her job knows about this now. And I really just hate gender wars. Like, they make no sense, right? Because there's no reason for her to make that video making fun of men's mental health awareness. Like, there's no reason for it. And I know people are just gonna be like, "Oh, well, she was obviously joking," but it's just like, I don't know. There's some things that, yes, you can joke about, but, like, sometimes it's like, I don't really know if you were joking, like, that's your actual intent or not. Like, I'd rather just not joke about any type of mental health stuff because of just how serious and prevalent it actually is. And let's just make this entire thing a lesson for people, because if you post a video like this and you know you're going to get backlash, just remember, you may work hard, but the internet works harder and faster.
He said there was a girl who made fun of men's mental health awareness, and it completely backfired. And honestly, that tells you everything about where we are as society right now. The moment men try to open up about real issues, it becomes a joke. Women love to say they want men to express their feelings, to be vulnerable, to talk more. But when they do, those same women turn around and mock them for it. That's exactly why men stay silent. This situation isn't rare. It happens all the time. A man speaks up about his pain, depression, or struggles, and instead of compassion, he gets laughed at. The same women who preach empathy and kindness suddenly find humor in a man suffering. But when the tables turn, when a woman cries out for help, society rushes to her defense. That double standard is destroying men quietly. And the worst part is, no one seems to care until it's too late. The reason that girl got so much backlash is because people are finally waking up. Men's mental health isn't a trend, and it's not a punchline. For too long, men have been carrying pain behind fake smiles and forced strength. Every "I'm fine" is another wall built to protect themselves from ridicule, especially ridicule coming from women. And that needs to be said out loud because women have been a huge part of the reason men feel unsafe expressing emotion. Men aren't asking for special treatment. They're asking for basic human respect. They're tired of being told to man up, tired of being treated like their feelings don't matter. When women make fun of men's mental health, it's not just a joke. It's a reminder that men have no safe space to be human. And yet, women still wonder why so many men choose silence, isolation, or worse. This is why. Because even their pain gets mocked. So yes, that girl's mockery backfired. Because men are no longer keeping quiet about the double standard. It's not funny when a man suffers. It's not weakness when he speaks up. And if women truly care about equality, they'd start showing the same empathy toward men that they demand for themselves. Until that happens, men will keep protecting their peace by walking away, not from emotion, but from those who laugh at it.
So for every man who is accused of not being emotionally available, there is usually a woman who at one point has weaponized his emotions. The reason why a lot of men keep quiet is because they upset women when they do tell them their truth. So they end up monitoring what they say because they know 9 times out of 10 is going to be met with defensiveness or tears. The best quote I ever heard, right, was from Brene Brown. She said, "Show me a woman who can sit with a man and his stuff, and I'll show you a woman who has done her work." Instead of shutting down, we as women need to exhibit potentially more emotional control if we're going to sit with a man during conflict. After all, if we are the more emotionally aware ones or available, then why aren't we having more patience with their emotions?
She said that for every man accused of being emotionally unavailable, there's usually a woman who once weaponizes emotions. And that's exactly the truth most people refuse to acknowledge. Men weren't born closed off. They became that way through experience. Every time a man tried to open up, every time he shared something deep, it was thrown back in his face. So now, instead of being honest, men stay silent. Not because they don't care, but because they've learned that being honest only leads to pain. Women constantly say they want emotionally open men, but the moment a man shares his truth, it becomes a problem. Suddenly, his vulnerability is seen as weakness or turned into a weapon during the next argument. That's the reality. A lot of men have learned the hard way that their emotions aren't safe with women. They've been told, "You can talk to me." But when they finally do, they're met with judgment, defensiveness, or tears that shift the focus back to her feelings. This is why so many men have stopped talking. They're not cold, they're cautious. They monitor every word. They filter their thoughts, not because they're hiding something, but because they know honesty will be punished. They can't share their real feelings without being misunderstood or guilt-tripped. And then women have the audacity to say, "Why don't men communicate?" The answer is simple. Because every time they tried, it cost them peace. Men crave understanding just like anyone else. But instead of being met with empathy, they're met with emotional manipulation. Women cry, twist the narrative, or get offended just to avoid accountability. And what that teaches men is, don't say anything next time. So they shut down. They become distant. Not because they want to, but because that's how they survive emotionally in relationships that don't feel safe for them to speak in. When women complain about emotionally unavailable men, they should first ask themselves, what did he go through to become that way? Because behind every quiet man is a history of being punished for honesty. Men learn to protect themselves by keeping silent. And until women stop turning men's vulnerability into ammunition, nothing will change. Men don't lack emotion. They lack trust that it will ever be handled with care.
Men are set up to fail. When it comes to emotional intelligence, men are set up to fail in our society. And I know some people aren't going to like hearing that, but this is coming from my experience and my expertise as a therapist. I've been a therapist for like 9 years now, and I've worked with men and women, and I know how society works, and I know how emotional intelligence like develops, and the way our society works actively like sets men up to fail when it comes to emotional regulation and intelligence. We all are trained out of our like intuitive knowingness of how to regulate our emotions because it's not socially acceptable, so we train it out of our kids. Throwing a tantrum is like the best way to regulate your emotions. Your body needs to do something with that energy, and if you just feel it and let your body do its thing, then it passes, which is exactly what you see if you just let a kid tantrum in a way that's safe for them and others. You will see that after like a couple minutes it's gone and now they're laughing and happy again. That's emotional regulation. We are all taught not to do that. And then what happens is we have different social kind of guidance as people who are socialized male versus female. Women are socialized to make emotional connections with other women. We talk about the drama in our friend group. We talk about our crushes and we talk about breakups. That is co-regulation. So our regulation skills are stripped from us, and then we are given back co-regulation. Men, however, are geared towards social experiences that are all about being strong. Don't be weak, don't be vulnerable, don't cry, suck it up, push harder, and often bullied for any sign of weakness or vulnerability. And for some reason, emotions are seen as weakness and vulnerability in our society. So men don't get that regulation skill like given back to them. Women do and men don't. So while we're all coming at it with like a shitty hand when it comes to being able to regulate our emotions, men are coming at it with no hand, and we've got just like a few cards, which is like process it, talk about it with other people. We don't know how to regulate it on our own a lot of the times, but men don't know how to do any of that most of the time. And so I'm not saying that they just get a pass, a lifelong pass for that, right? You shouldn't accept like mistreatment from anyone regardless of the reason. But when we as a society take on this narrative that men are trash and that men don't have empathy and that men are just like horrible, what we're doing is we're perpetuating it not being a safe place for men to mess up, for men to talk about their feelings and their vulnerabilities. We're perpetuating the isolation that created this issue in the first place. And so by not being able to approach it with nuance and have this conversation with nuance, we are just further creating the problem. And I'm not saying, women, that you have to take on the like projects of men. It's not your responsibility. But I think we're taught that if a man can't communicate how he feels, then we just, he's a bad person, get rid of him. That's not necessarily true. And if you have the emotional capacity to hold space for someone, whether it's in a friendship, a family, or a romantic relationship, if you have the ability to regulate your own emotions, aka secure attachment, then it is possible for you to be a safe space for a man who wasn't given the opportunity to process their emotions, to be vulnerable, to mess up and like be given space for that to be okay. You have that opportunity, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but it is possible. And I don't like that we just decide that all men are trash unless they, reach some point of emotional maturity by a certain age. Anybody is capable of growth and change and healing, but our attitudes about it are not helping the problem. They're making it worse and just taking away any potential safe place for this issue to be addressed.
She said something that hit deep. As a therapist, she's had the kind of personal connection with men that most people never get to experience. She's seen their stories, their pain, their silence, and how much they hold inside. She said most women only understand men through what they saw from their fathers, partners, or brief relationships, never through real empathy or observation. That's why their views on men are often shallow, emotional, and unfair. Men are under constant emotional restraint. Women are encouraged to cry, to talk, to share their pain, and the world celebrates it as strength. But when a man shows anger or frustration, suddenly it's toxic. That double standard has silenced men for generations. Anger, for many men, isn't about aggression. It's the only safe release for stress and bottled up pain. Yet even that is treated as something to be ashamed of. People love to repeat the phrase, women are more emotionally intelligent. But where's the proof? Emotional intelligence is about understanding others, not just yourself. If empathy were balanced, there'd be more compassion for what men endure daily. The therapist's words make it clear. Men regulate differently. They cope differently, and that doesn't make them broken. It makes them human. There's a quiet kind of suffering that most men carry, the kind that no one asks about. They suppress emotions because every time they try to open up, it's been twisted, mocked, or used against them. The world rewards women for being vulnerable, but punishes men for doing the same. That's why so many keep everything bottled in. Not because they lack emotion, but because showing it brings pain instead of peace. The imbalance is clear. Men have been conditioned to absorb the world's weight without complaint while being told they're emotionally unavailable for not breaking down. The therapist saw the truth that society keeps ignoring. Men feel deeply, they just aren't allowed to show it safely. Until that changes, they'll keep carrying their struggles in silence, because it's the only way they've been taught to survive.
As a therapist for men, I think one of the most critical parts of my job is helping men come back to life. And what I see a lot of men do when they're in pain is cope in one of two ways. You withdraw, isolate, really shut down how much you're even showing up in your life, or you're showing up technically, but you are hiding in plain sight. You're wearing a mask. You are not really living totally authentically. You're going through the motions. Neither of these feel like much of a life. Neither of these options feel fulfilling. It is possible to come back to life. You have to learn to improve that relationship with yourself. So you actually want that guy to live, not just to exist, to live. But in order to do that, you have to believe that guy is worthy, that guy deserves love, that guy is enough. This is where I think therapy or coaching, support from other men can be so valuable, because when we sit with someone else who reflects back to us the fact that maybe we are worth a damn, well, that's new, right? If this person, maybe a friend, maybe a therapist, maybe a coach, maybe a mentor, thinks I'm worth something, is it possible that I could believe I'm worth something? Once you start believing that you are worth something, you get to start living your life again. I would argue even just having the working hypothesis that maybe I am worth a damn allows you to start living. I'll often tell my clients that you don't feel like you're enough, you don't feel like you're worthy, but are you giving yourself a chance to even test out that hypothesis? Is the mask so prominent that you're not even sure anymore where the mask ends and you begin? You can start living again. And it's within you. That's the good news, right? You deserve to come back to life.
Most men today aren't really living, they're just existing. And that's the painful truth no one wants to talk about. When a man wakes up every day just to survive, not because he's excited about life, but because giving up feels worse, that's not living. It's a quiet kind of suffering that people overlook, especially the ones who claim to care. Every day, a man gets asked if he's okay, and every day he gives the same answer, I'm fine. Not because he actually is, but because experience has taught him that opening up isn't worth it. Every time he's tried to be honest, his words were thrown back in his face. His pain was minimized, mocked, or used against him. After a while, silence becomes his only safe space. Many men feel like their reasons for living stopped caring about them long ago. The people they love, the people they fight for, often treat their efforts like they mean nothing. It's hard to keep showing up when all you get in return is criticism, judgment, or emotional neglect. Women demand emotional openness, but when men show it, it's used as a weapon to make them feel weak. That's why so many have given up on trying to be understood. Men have been beaten down by the same system that claims to support them. They're expected to stay strong, pay the bills, take the hits, and never fall apart. But the truth is, they're exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. Years of belittlement, mockery, and false accusations have stripped them of purpose. They've been told they're never enough, no matter what they do. And after hearing that long enough, you start to believe it. Existence becomes the only option when you're constantly reminded that your value depends on what you can provide, not who you are. Men are walking through life feeling unseen, unheard, and unloved, not because they don't care, but because they've learned that caring only gets them hurt. That's not weakness. That's survival in a world that forgot what men truly need: respect, understanding, and peace.
Men, especially right now, are needing a lot more appreciation and support from women and from men because since the rise of the feminist movement, we have seen a lot of empowering women or independent, powerful women kind of pushing down and suppressing masculinity. And we are seeing this on a larger scale. This is hurting all of us. And if we choose to support men in the rise of healthy masculinity, we are going to see everything start to work in our favor as women and as men. So we need to stop with just empowering women and bashing on men and hating on men for being men, and start empowering everyone so that we can all thrive together.
She said men today need appreciation more than ever, and she's right. For years, society has focused on empowering women, which isn't a bad thing. But in that fight for equality, something important got lost: respect for men, appreciation for masculinity, gratitude for the sacrifices that men make every single day. Men are out here doing their best, holding things together quietly, yet the recognition they deserve is nowhere to be found. Masculinity has been twisted into something negative. Men have been made to feel ashamed just for being men. They can't speak their minds without being labeled as controlling, toxic, or outdated. Every masculine trait, leadership, protection, discipline, strength, is now seen as a threat instead of a gift. Women fought for rights, and that was necessary. But somewhere along the way, they started fighting against men instead of fighting with them. And now look at where we are. Men are walking around feeling unwanted, unappreciated, and misunderstood. The same men who built our roads, worked dangerous jobs, and sacrificed their time and safety for their families are now being told they're the problem. The same men who stay loyal, show up, and work hard are ignored because society glorifies the loudest, most self-centered voices instead of those quietly doing what's right. No one's saying men should be allowed to behave poorly. That's not the point. The point is, good men exist. Men who take responsibility. Men who show love. Men who still believe in honor and duty. Those men are fading away because they're tired of being treated like their masculinity is a curse. Women wanted strength and leadership in men, but now when they see it, they call it arrogance or toxicity. The message has become confusing. Men can't win either way. It's time to restore balance. Men don't need worship. They need acknowledgement. They need women who understand that appreciation doesn't make you weak. It builds respect. The fight for equality should have never turned into a war on masculinity. If women truly value the future, they need to start valuing the men who make that future possible. Because when men are appreciated, they don't just survive, they thrive, and the whole world becomes stronger because of it. I want to say this: men deserve to be seen, valued, and appreciated for who they are, not just what they provide. The world has taken so much from them emotionally, yet they keep showing up, they keep building, they keep protecting. To every man watching this, keep standing tall. You don't need validation to know your worth. But remember, your presence matters. And to the women out there, if you truly want strong men around you, start by giving them the one thing they rarely get: genuine appreciation. Thanks for watching. And as always, drop your thoughts below. Let's keep this conversation real, honest, and respectful.